It'll be
Welcome
a
back, everybody.
quicker one.
Glad you could all come back and join this conversation again. I'm Adrian. One of the moderators here with Trent. First for Roundtable Tuesday. Would first off like to thank our sponsor, Diamondback Land Surveying.
Whatever.
As if you didn't know already. For those new people, I don't know if there's any new people, I doubt it, but if there was watching the YouTube video, thank you to our sponsor, Diamondback Landscape. All right,
Good one.
continuing on. I will go through. I'm gonna do an icebreaker first, and
Nice.
then I'll go over the summary, and then we'll get back into it.
All right. Love it.
So my icebreaker is, well, I'll give a little background. My name's Adrian. I've been surveying for 7 years. Went to Fresno State. I've been working in the industry for the past 7 years, and I currently work at Dragados Flatiron joint venture on high-speed rail. And I'm involved as much as I can be, as much as my wife lets me. So that's my story. Let's go to Trent. You want a little introduction?
Talk about the high speed. Is it the one between LA and San Francisco, or is it the one between?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay,
in
so
California.
the Gold Line or whatever that one. I forget what they're calling that one. Okay, I was curious. Trent Keenan, Las Vegas, Nevada. Surveying for. I'm a month away from 28 years, so I've been doing it a minute.
Congratulations.
So, Diamondback Land Surveying, we'll call it with that.
All right, next up is Joshua.
Josh Stice. I am in Harley, Georgia, northwest of Atlanta. I've been surveying 33 years. Damn. I am old.
See, you are the old guard.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we'll go Tasha if she can. If not, I'll wait a moment.
Oh, yeah. I'm fine. Tasha Hutta. I work for, in Anchorage, Alaska. I work for the Bureau of Land Management, so federal surveyor, and I just reached my 25th year this past May.
Congratulations all to you. Longevity. Next up is David. If he's available. We'll wait a moment. And all right, we'll skip to Troy. If they're available. If they're not available, we will continue on in 1 moment. Also, I'll go with my icebreaker since they're not on yet. If you had to be a survey, I should ask this in the beginning, but I'm human. So if you had to be a survey instrument or tool, what would it be and why? For me, I probably would pick a chain because I've always been interested in the old chain methods, and one day I want to do a workshop on chaining, but that's my tool that I would be cool, or not like you would live it, but that's a tool I would want to be. Anybody else?
That one's torn because I love technology, so I would say I'd be a 3D scanner, but I also love the history side of it, and so I'd love to be an old mountain transit so that I could run across the mountain ranges and all the history that was associated with it. So I don't know how the hell I could pick that one. You know what? I'll go with mountain transit just because I like the hiking and being outdoors and that whole aspect of it. So I'll go mountain transit.
So, Josh, you have one?
I'd go with the chain also, just because it's universal and it works everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Awesome. Tasha, if you're available, you could go ahead.
Yeah, I'll add into the conversation. The first thing that popped in my mind was a tree scribe. I love the evidence and the heritage there, going up to a bearing tree, touching the marks that original surveyor left, and then leaving my own behind. And the last time I used my tree scribe, though, was to carve letters into a watermelon rind to make a pirate ship. So
That's awesome.
Still getting used.
I love it.
Cool.
So Troy he's on chat, so maybe he doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, okay.
He's from Pendleton, Oregon. He's 5 years in the profession, and he's a engineer tech for the city of Pendleton. And since I'm new, I'd be cutting brush for y'all. So he's a machete.
All right. Cool.
That's awesome.
So then I'll continue on with the past Roundtable Tuesday. So some of the things we highlighted, I think it was like 1 through 3 really. And talked about what is a mentor mentee from everybody's different point of view, company policies, not company policies, but company, I don't know, programs that they incorporated for the mentor mentee. We talked about the BLM one, talked about waiting until you're a party chief with Josh, and I thought you were qualified to be taught. So that was part of that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting them to know that you're serious about the job and investing the time in you. Let's see. Identify mentoring goals, and then finish it off with Rob's talk about Caltrans and dress attire. So that was more like the background of mentor mentee, was what we talked about last time. What I wanted to get into was about the feedback portion of a mentor, not necessarily, I guess, not mentor mentee, but being a manager, leader, and you have people under you, and being a mentor in that sense as like leadership, you know, teaching, almost like kids, you know, teaching them how you want them to be in the world. It goes the same for in your company. That's if you take pride in your work, or, you know, my wife says I'm an old man. I was raised by my grandma, well, by my mom and grandma, but a lot of the values I got were from my grandma, which was old school values.
Yes.
So a lot of the ways that I think is old school. Constructive criticism, you know, I never been a fan of it, but it's a valuable tool that's necessary for growth. You know, so these are the things that I want to get into. We could start, let's see, learning, and maybe I should share my screen so we can see the. Oh, I've been just.
Yep, you're good. Good to go.
Okay. And oh,
Here we go.
did it work?
Yes.
It's up now. Yep.
Okay. Is it readable? Like, do I need to zoom in, or?
You could zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I'll make.
Okay.
I'll change the camera
about
angles
that?
on the side. There you go. Yep, that's perfect.
Okay. So we had got into these 3 learning styles. I know there is different learning styles. I've seen a lot of stuff on LinkedIn from this lady, Mara Bod, and she talks about, well, she doesn't talk, but she shares posts about leadership styles. So I'm sure there's tons of stuff, and there's probably courses for those managers that have been moving in the ranks and probably attended a course or 2 to help them be a better manager. So I don't really have much to say on that topic, but if anybody has anything to say that you would like to share, please go ahead.
And you're talking about learning styles right now?
Yeah, learning styles,
Okay.
understanding different learning styles. If you want me to discuss the different learning styles and how they can impact mentor relationships, this could include visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning.
Okay, I think the important thing is just to understand maybe what yours is and try to get an understanding of what your mentees is.
Yep.
So if yours is different, then you're just gonna have to recognize that so you can work a little bit harder to connect.
Yeah, I would say along those same lines, right? Like some people are visual learners, right? Some people are, audio style, right? Where you just kind of lecture to them and talk to them, right? But some people may be more 100% visuals. So there's those two different styles as well, let alone. So
Yeah. Yeah, for I guess for myself, I'm probably more of a hands-on visual learner versus if you tell me stuff from like it's hard to grasp. So I need to take my notes and review it and stuff like that. So yeah, I see that.
and I think,
Or
especially from like the profession we're in, right? It's definitely a hands-on. So I think the whole aspect of touch and feeling in our side of it is running the data collectors, right? Or running the commands in AutoCAD. Those two things, those are all very hands-on. So it would be definitely more of a hands-on style mentorship
definitely.
when it comes to this profession, for sure.
And I tried to base everything I did on trying to do more of a classroom scenario setting, and then we'd have a follow-up in the field, hands-on setting, just to try to cover everybody's learning abilities and how they learn. And it really would, you could really tell the individual styles if you offered multiple varieties when we're going over subjects or topics with people. And it definitely helped me get outside my comfort zone on understanding more about the mentees and the people I was trying to influence, which isn't always comfortable. I kind of like I like my box I live in.
I guess so. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Troy put in the chat as well. So he was influenced by Myers-Briggs learning, but I do feel the main key is constant contact. You just can't interact enough. So
Yeah,
for sure.
Cool. I lost my train of thought, so let me regather my thoughts. It'll come back to me. Does anybody have anything else to add? Or we'll continue on to number 5, establishing trust and rapport. Discuss how to establish trust and rapport with mentees, including active listening, open communication, and sharing personal experience. Now I remember what I was going to go. So for 4, I know it may not be maybe not necessarily tied to learning style, but there's a lot of talk about the younger generation. Well, so I've heard. I don't know. This is all anecdotes, so it's not like backed by anything. But that the generation that's the current generation is coming up is not doesn't want to work or doesn't, they have a different working style, they have a different belief system, they have, a whole different everything. And it's up to managers, leaders to figure out who these young people are. And you got to meet them on their level or, learn about who they are and what where they're coming from. It's like you got to connect. and you can't just like, can't just be like the old way of thinking, I'll just say, use an example, like the boomer generation was, they work ethic was this way. And then, as the different generations, so every generation is different. You just have to really dig in and learn, and then using that information, then you could connect and be a better leader and inspire them. But that's part of, I would say, learning style. Continue on to trust and rapport. Sharing personal experiences, that's part, I would say, like, that's general, like what most leaders do usually, share their experiences of what not to do usually.
Yeah.
Or when you're out in the field telling your field people, make sure you get all these things. I don't know if you guys use checklists, things like that is what I get from that. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to that.
I think that sharing personal experiences, I mean, that's probably just as important as the hands-on training part, right? Just going through different scenarios, and understanding what you learned. I mean, like going back almost to like a parenting style too, right? Like the life experiences that you have and you've learned as a parent that you would pass on to your kids, and vice versa, right? It's the same scenario works from a mentor mentee standpoint when it comes to, the business world as well too. So
Cool. Oh, now number 6, giving constructive feedback. My favorite. This is what I wanted
that's
to
the one
talk
you want to
about.
talk. Yeah.
So, discuss how to give constructive feedback that is both honest and helpful. This could include the use of specific examples, focusing on behaviors rather than personalities, and offering suggestions for improvement. So I'll start it off. This was part of the whole reason why I wanted to do this with Trent, was for the constructive feedback, because I felt like the people that were managing me in different roles, we had yearly reviews, they'll tell you, well, this is what you need to work on. But constructive feedback is an ongoing thing, and it can't be done annually. I mean, you can give a review, but really it's a day-to-day expectations. It's like for your kids, expectations, how you expect them to interact with other people, society, how you expect them to interact with yourself, being a parent. So not only can your parenting rules apply to your, parenting life, but also within a professional life. Like if they're not doing something that you want them to do, or they're not doing it the right way, you should reach out, talk to them. It's all about communication, but it seems there's a lack of communication between managers and the people under them until it's the yearly review.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David. You're on.
Yeah, hi. Sorry I was a little late to the game. As soon as this started up, my phone just started ringing like crazy. So
Always.
so I jumped in like right around number 4, and so I'm trying to catch up here. But I did want to say something about establishing trust and rapport, and that is probably one of the most important ones to me. I think that me personally, on my path early on, I learned the most from some of the guys that I had the biggest conflicts with in the field, the ones that like almost ran me off and threw me out of the truck. And but then later, it's really interesting, because it's like, I hung in there, or they decided to give me one more chance or whatever, and then we ended up being like really good partners and bonding and working together for a long time after that. And I learned a lot from, I'm thinking of one person in particular, that old party chief that mentored me. And I feel like it really is a matter of establishing trust. So I try to put those ground rules kind of out at the beginning, like, hey, we're gonna talk and ask questions when we're riding to the job and back home. We're not gonna talk about it while we're working. I encourage them to ask questions and talk. I explain to them that, me taking the time to teach you this stuff and explain all this stuff to you is me investing in you because I believe in you and I want you to succeed here. And I feel like those are the kind of statements that will foster a trusting relationship, and rather than me just telling them go pound that nail in the ground over there, or teaching them how to set the legs up and yelling at them if they do it wrong or whatever. And so I've recently got a new opportunity for mentoring, and I'm actually working with somebody that's trying to get a license, and my current employer is encouraging me to work with this person and teach them, get them up to a licensed status because if they have expressed an interest. And so I'm new in this position, but I expressed in the interview that mentoring was important to me, and so they gave me this opportunity. And it's been a new kind of mentoring thing to me, because before it was all like either having somebody in the field flagging lads, teaching them how to tie a knot on the head of a 60D, or teaching them how to sketch up a deed in AutoCAD and what a bearing is and stuff like that. And now I'm actually getting into some professional level decisions, so it's kind of a new chapter for me. But across the board, establishing trust is important, and I agree with what you guys are saying about the sharing experiences and just building that relationship to start, and then kind of seeing where it takes you. And it goes both ways, because sometimes you really like pour a lot of energy into these guys, the people that you're trying to mentor, and you get either a blank stare, or sometimes they'll even come up and just tell you straight up, I'm not interested in that. And you kind of just have to take that how it is and say, all right, they're not going to be they're not ready to go beyond this level yet, or if they ever will. So that's all I got.
Thank you. I know Josh had talked about establishing trust and rapport with his party chief mentor, so that's definitely what helped him in his professional career.
Yeah, and it was a lot like David. It was very hostile in the beginning, and then they realized that I was stupid and was going to keep coming back for more, and I loved it after that. I mean, I don't think I quit learning working for the older crew chiefs.
Yep, definitely. When they invested in you, and it was a reciprocal relationship, versus I know these days it's harder with I guess personnel. I'm not in the manager, so I don't know exactly how it works, but from what I've seen and heard, it's hard to find people that want to work for you, and probably could help. Probably the trust and rapport, like you guys are talking about, plays a big role in that relationship.
Plus, just got something to add.
Yeah, well, I just heard a kind of a common goal that I think is really important to acknowledge, and that is, kind of a shared goal, a shared vision. You've got somebody who's working towards licensure and somebody who wants to help them achieve licensure. You've got someone who's, wanting to learn the skill and somebody who wants to help them along that path. I've seen a lot of times where it fails because, somebody sees a good quality and they're like, oh, I really want to push this person along, but that person doesn't have the same vision. So I think a key ingredient to what you guys are discussing is that shared common goal and shared vision.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's true.
Good points. And that's what we've always, we've been kind of saying on all these different platforms we've been talking about the last few years is not everybody wants to be licensed, right? And so you're just teaching them at that point, you're just teaching them a skill to either be, an IMAN or survey tech or, party chief or, whatever the skill set that they want. And those things move as they get older and their career vision changes, right? And so that's why, sometimes I wish licensing boards would open up more of an experience on each one of these licensing boards, because when you first get into it, you're not interested in going to a 4-year college. And then let me let Tasha. When you get into it, you're not interested in a 4-year college or doing any of that things. And then as you grow through your profession, you're like, oh, snap, now this is what I love and this is what I'm going to do. And now, here I am 20 years of experience and I'd like to go get licensed, but my door is closed, right? Unless I go back to school. So I do wish some of the licensing boards would open up a little bit. And then they just did that in New Mexico. They opened it up July 1st, actually. So they've been 4-year degree since, late 80s, early 90s or whatever. 90, I think 91-ish was kind of their last door closed, and they just opened it up to 16 years of experience. And I think it'll help them because all of those ones that change their career throughout the thing.
Yep.
So that's back to the mentoring side of it, right? Like the goals change as somebody progresses through their career. That's kind of where I was going with that story. But
yeah, and I feel like we're really going to have to get creative. And again, I'm not. I know Trent's got a license, and I believe Adrian, you're you're just recently licensed, right, in California?
No,
Oh, you're not?
I got my LSIT, but that's it.
Okay, so I'm just kind of trying to understand who I'm talking to here, so because I missed the introductions, but I feel like the traditional paths are really kind of changing right now and splintering, and even if I don't even know if they're even valid anymore. Like, you're not just going to go start as a chainman or a hammer operator and work on a 3 or 4 man crew and work your way up over 15 years. That doesn't happen anymore. You end up working with, maybe if you're lucky, a 2-man crew. And then, the same with probably the college people. If you go that route, then you're probably just going to go straight to an office position, and you're never even going to see a hammer. So it's very, I think, kind of a different world than it has been. And I've been hearing this from people for forever. The surveying industry changes over time, but we just have to be, as mentors and mentees, creative and open-minded to how we're going to work with people and how to build these relationships and express these goals and find that people a path to get wherever they're trying to go.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Back to the, well, we're still on obviously number 6, but given that constructive feedback, right? Like I think sometimes I've even had it with Heather, my own daughter. Like she's not very strong on the math side of things. And so we're going to, basically wait on the survey degree until she maybe matures a little bit more and wants to take the time to understand the math. But in the flip side, she didn't want to quit school, right? So she went to the business management side of things to work on that while she kind of works on her math skills or whatever, right? So some of that constructive criticism is where some of those come into the conversations, having those conversations with, maybe you're not ready for this X step or, Y step or whatever, right? And having those conversations is where those feedback comes in to say, I think we need a little bit more time before we, move to the next step. And that's goes back to Tyler's very first one was, you can't interact enough, right? And so those having those conversations. So, but and it goes both ways, right? Like the mentee has to be able to have those conversations as well. So and be able to communicate, and not, it just can't be a one-way street, which we've talked about that every platform as well. It's two-way street. So
yeah, that well, we would pick one meeting, one day a month. I do a meeting at 7 o'clock, and it was no one in the office showed up till about 8:30, and we would just shut the door, and it was a free for all. If everybody got everything out on the table, issues and whatever, and we just talked it out, and it was no hurt feelings. It wasn't, and if it was about me, great. Luckily, I had enough of a relationship with my crew chiefs that they weren't bashful. But it worked out really well that we had the trust there, that we knew it was business, it wasn't personal.
mm-hmm.
And we could have a drag out fight and then go out and have drinks that evening. It was fine. And it never got brought up again. That was the one nice thing. And it was really, even with my folks, to get them to understand that I care about behaviors. I don't care about personality. Personalities have nothing to do really for what we were doing day to day, but bad behaviors are what I can really control. So, now it's a different realm for me because I'm by myself. I work, I do the field work, I do the office work. I don't have to associate with people. So when I go back into a different role where I decide to hire people and have staff, or I can convince the owner just to buy a survey company, because I'm pretty sure that's the only way we're going to hire people, is just to buy a company outright.
The only way to grow. Yep.
Switch gears back to not just doing everything myself, and getting back to having constructive feedback and participating in two-way conversations.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna jump off of what David said about the different paths. So I feel like I started this, journey, like social media, putting myself out there before I even had any type of certification, before I had anything, I was just putting myself out there. And I feel like not just in surveying world, but the world in general, it's, if you don't have any qualifications, if you're not a PLS, then you can't be a part or a leader in this conversation, or you can't really do anything, because who are you? You're just some person. Where I'm like, was like, oh, well, it's because I heard this podcast and I was like, oh, it's about leadership. So they're like, oh, if you want to, do things, you got to put yourself out there, and you'll probably fail, and people will talk about you. But if you want to make a change, you just have to do it. So for me, even though I didn't have any real qualifications besides my experience, I just started, coming out. And I feel like to get the other people, like the technicians, the field, would have to like invest in them to let them know that it's okay to join these conversations. It's not just for office staff, it's not just for the PLS, it's for everybody to join, because that's the only way we're going to change. Like Trent said, the culture, it's a long-term process, and we need everybody to come in to join, so that everybody's a part of the change, and not just trying to change just the PLSs or whatever it is. But I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, like constructive feedback. I felt when I was failing, at what I was doing, there was nobody was like reaching out to me. So me now learning the things I've learned, where I'm at on the last episode, I talked about we had, well, those my previous job, we had interns. So I would share information, share personal experiences, share really whatever I could. Because like I said, we weren't working on the same project, so it's two different things. So all I could share was my experiences, and anything new I learned, I try to like, hey, I just learned this new thing. Are you interested in learning? They're like, yeah. So we did a little quick demo on Teams. I recorded it, so if they wanted to watch it later, they could, which is like the benefit of this platform. Like Trent was saying earlier about the different types of people. Not everybody's interested in learning, there's only a few that are like, consistently come and or probably watch the videos after they've been recorded. So you can't make people do anything that they're not really interested in. And for me, I have to learn how to understand people's personalities and not invest too much of myself in those types of people, because I'm so young, so I'm still learning. But my wife is my support. She's my guy that tells me, yeah, you could invest in people, but don't invest too much, because you don't know how, especially this is not necessarily in the leadership, I'm not the manager. I'm just trying to invest in people, help people, bring people up. But for constructive feedback right now, I have a field guy who's part of a crew, and he comes into office, and then we talk about what he's doing out there, and I tell him, this, like, so he gave me some data, and it was just like all the points for the project, which was a lot. And I'm like, you gotta pay attention to what you're doing. You can't just be, yeah, you can export from the data controller, whatever's there, but you need to check your work. You need to do these things if you want to be better. So I'll leave it on him. I'm telling you these things. This is what you need to do, and it's up to you if you want to be a better surveyor. So I leave it on them. But that's where I was getting at with the constructive feedback, even if it's me telling whoever I'm working with, but I wish more people would do it. I feel like people are afraid. Like if I feel like someone doesn't like me, I'll be like, hey, do you not like me? Or, was there a problem with us? Did I do something? And I don't think people are that honest anymore. And that's why I have seen a lack of constructive feedback.
Like I said, they'll just tell you no anyway, right? No, everything's fine. Yeah, they don't want confrontation. So
Yeah, and I don't like confrontation either, but
no, exactly.
I don't know, in a professional setting, I feel like it's necessary.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just an older generation mindset.
Yep.
And I think the constructive feedback's important too it's important for us as mentors, but it's important also for our more senior office people, that if the field crew is continually screwing up the same thing and the office is fixing it, let the field crew know. Have that the communication needs to be constant on with everybody, because from the crew perspective, pardon my French, they get butthurt when they get told by me that they're doing something wrong, because they've been doing it the same way for years and no one's told them. And it's because the CAD techs are going, oh yeah, they always screw this up. We just fix it in the office. It's like, when you're not there, who's fixing it in the office if you're not doing the processing? I mean, what happens then? And it's having that environment that everybody feels that they matter and they're wanting to be engaged in it, which is hard to do.
She
I
goes
think
back
you
to that trust. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think you just hit on something that's, really important, because both scenarios are constructive feedback, right?
Yes.
The weekly check-ins or the after the fact.
Yeah.
But I think if oftentimes the reoccurring fails I hear is when, we wait till the end. We wait till somebody's been, really messed it up or has created patterns, and then we tell them. And then there's frustration. They're like, why didn't you tell me this before? We had plenty of opportunities for you to, give me some feedback prior to this. And so I think that that's part of the equation, because both of them fall under the umbrella of constructive feedback, but one of them people might respond more positively to, and the other one people are going to have a negative reaction to.
Yeah, we're big on that too. Just, somebody will come to, one of the guys will come in and say, hey, somebody, so and so did something wrong. I'm like, well, did you call them and tell them? Like, they don't know if they did it wrong unless you call them and tell them, right? So it's big on that. It's that instant feedback, right? Like, know right away so they don't do the same issue on the next job. And granted, I mean, it's the field, right? So it's the field guys that are always kind of doing the same thing over and over and over. And so sometimes it's hard to break that habit, even if they've done it wrong for so long. But if you keep telling them, that's what I try to tell everybody, keep telling them it's wrong, then eventually they're going to get tired of being told they're wrong every time.
Yes. Small corrections will never upset the boat, but when you wait till it becomes a large correction, it tends to upheave all the progress you were making.
Yep.
Cool. All right, moving on to number 7, providing support and resources. Discuss how to provide support and resources to mentees, including offering guidance, connecting them with other professionals, and sharing relevant articles and materials. For me, this is like support and resources would be supporting them in their professional development, like in going to conferences, including them into your chapter. So your local, if you have a local chapter, just being supportive of their interests, because sometimes, managers cannot be supportive in that area. I know I had one young manager and he was really supportive in what I was interested in, and that just like it drives you more than, of course not. So it really pouring into your people. I'm sure you guys have similar situations. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal is, you've got a continuing education stipend and, all stuff like that, to where, your employer is going to actually pay you to learn. And then, depending on where you're at, what kind of company you're at, how big it is, what kind of resources they have, you're going to get shades of gray all the way down to, hey, if you want to do that, you go do it. and I can't really help you with it other than, sharing experience and knowledge. But one thing that I tried to do as a survey technician and as a licensed surveyor is, we have in California the California Land Surveyors Association. I've been associated with 3 different chapters, and they're kind of loosely arranged by county. Some of them are a little bit bigger geographic area, but let's just say 3 different counties that I've been associated with. So, and the meetings will be on an evening, 7 p.m. at a dinner meeting or whatever, usually. So I'm taking time as an LSIT out of my personal life to go to these meetings and rub elbows with some surveyors, and I'm also paying for dinner, because the chapters, none of them really support that. Now that I'm in kind of a leadership role, I'm saying, hey, we need more land survey techs in here. If any of them show up, we're buying them dinner. But nobody's doing that yet. And anyway, one thing that I've tried to do from my employer was say, hey, listen, I'm gonna, and I don't need, a couple times I talked about it, and then maybe the employer said, okay, sure, I'll pay you for an hour to go to that meeting. The meetings are usually a couple hours, because you're sitting there talking and eating and travel to and from, so it could be a 2 or 3 hour commitment on a weeknight, on a work night, that you're taking away from your family or whatever you like to do on a normal evening. And, I found that personally very rewarding to go to those meetings, but some people might not, and some people might find it boring, and some people might just be like, well, hey, I want to just go see how it is, and I can't afford the dinner. So I always thought it was a good idea to incentivize, the employees to go and attend these meetings and realize the benefits of the networking and the fellowship and the professional fellowship and just the professional development that you get from those meetings, because it's paid off, big time for me over my career. And if you don't go, and hardly anybody does. I don't see a lot of land technicians at those meetings, and that's a problem. But you're never going to find out those rewards. You're never going to realize them if you don't make yourself show up to those meetings. So that's all I got for resources.
I agree. They're valuable and great networking opportunities.
One of I was gonna say, one of the
Go
things with that would be one of the conversations we have here at the office is the self, one will pay for you to go anywhere, or buy the books, or go, pay for you to go to the chapter dinners or whatever, right? But it's, again, if you almost give too much, then there's no personal investment in it, right? And so that's part of what we push here is you gotta have your personal growth involved in all of that, right? And so that's goes back to that forcing them to do something versus just letting them choose on their own. And so for us, there's always a monetary, if you go get your CST 1, 2, 3, whatever, right, there's a monetary part to it, but they're doing two things. One, it's their personal growth, and they're making a better employee for the company. And so same with going to the dinner meetings and that kind of stuff. They have to be able to be willing to invest in themselves. And there's always a monetary, on our side, there's always a monetary part to that. So we'll pay for whatever. You're going to get a boost in your pay, right? And that's a lot of things now too, like how expedited your career growth is in your early parts of your career, right? Because it just compounds, right? So if you're making $25 an hour when you're 25, because you were really fast and really aggressive in your growth, or you just sat back and you were just kind of a guy on a crew for the first 10 years, now you're making $21 an hour or whatever, right? And you just sit back for 10 years. Well, that X factor of, monetary growth throughout your career is expedited so much faster when you're more aggressive in the younger years. So,
yeah.
But it's developing, I think, finding that way to have those both conversations, right? So they got to be willing, and you got to, in a company or the profession has to be willing to pay for that. So
yeah, totally agree with that. It does call for some personal investment.
Mm-hmm.
And if I and I've been, I feel like I've been on both sides of this now, because I ran my own company for like 5 years, and I've had people that I wanted them to like go do stuff and they weren't interested. So, but let's say I buy somebody dinner for 3 years and they're still not any step close, not taking any personal action towards getting that CST or an LSIT, then I'm just gonna have to say, hey, you're not pulling your weight, and I'm gonna the free dinners, the monthly free dinners are about to end because I need to see some progress here.
And that's that constructive feedback, right? So
Yeah,
goes back to that. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Continue to number 8. It's pretty much 7, fostering continuous learning. Discuss the parts of continuous learning and how mentors can help foster this in their mentees. This could include encouraging mentees to attend conferences, networking events, and training opportunities, which is what we were talking about.
Yeah, 7 and
And
8
then-
definitely combine there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then developing an action plan, work with mentees to develop an action plan that outlines specific steps they can take to achieve their goals. This should include specific actions, timelines, and resources needed. I feel like this is on the constructive feedback, this part might be like part of your yearly review, but it's an ongoing path, for them to continually improve. At least I would hope that they would want to continually improve. I know there are those people that just want to stay where they're at and they're just cruising.
And I think that's where, like you say, develop the action with new mentors, right? So you develop a six-month plan, maybe a 3-month plan, 6-month plan, year goals, right? 5-year goals, that kind of thing. And that's kind of developing where they want to be and work around those timelines from there, right? And depending on, in some of that changes too, like how long they've already been in the profession and how much stuff they know. And so again, that's kind of a very fluid thing, but and then it's like you say, it's always getting updated, right? Every either annual review or biannual review or whatever the case may be. But it's setting those goals, and it goes both ways again, right? This is what I expect out of you as a mentor, and then they need to set their goals of what they expect, from a mentee standpoint as well. So it's definitely that's a twofold action plan.
So. Definitely. And then the 10th one is follow-up and evaluation, schedule regular follow-up sessions to evaluate progress and adjust the mentoring program as needed. That's that should be an ongoing thing. Yeah. If you're in a mentor-mentee setting, it doesn't really ever end. It's a continuous growth. They're asking questions about certain situations, and it's just continuous growth. Right? And I think we talked about it briefly, but you should always be, well, in my mindset is you should always be developing your replacement. I know you probably have someone for your guys' roles already, or thinking about it, but as a technician level, I know a lot of stuff, and I used to have the mindset like, oh, this is all the information for myself. I'm gonna keep it to me because I need a job. But I've learned and accepted that to grow others, you have to share your information. You can't just keep it to yourself, because it's only going to benefit everybody, because you'll learn from others and they'll learn from you. And if we all have that closed mindset, we're never going to grow. I think you're muted, Trent.
I am. So pretty much 100%. That's what I was going to say with that. Yeah, you can't, and that's kind of like when we very first started this whole thing, right? That's the old adage of the old school thinking of I can't teach anybody because they're going to steal my job, right? That's the old skill mentality. And so I hope through some of all of this that's part of the culture that we do change, right? And that's being able to share that, and it only creates a better company and a better company culture when you do. And you got to be able to have that situation where you can, and we're big on it too, where guys, if you don't have multiple people that can do multiple jobs, then you're in Josh's situation where you don't take a vacation since 2016. So cross training is huge when it comes to that. So, and that's again being able to develop that mentor mentee relationship, to be able to even cross train. It can't just be on a mentor and a mentee's relationship. It can't just be one specific skill set, right? It needs to be kind of a broad range too. So I think that's one thing we got to kind of hit on there too.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about it, but developing soft skills, I might have mentioned it last time. Don't remember though.
Yeah,
but
I know
that's also
we've had that conversation a few times, but yeah, those soft skills are very, very important. So
teaching your people soft skills, it's not just for the managers, it's for the young, or for the, I don't know how you say, the people under you, to help them grow, even if it's not that they're going to grow to be a manager like you, but it can help them in their professional life, dealing with whoever they're interacting with, whether it's on the site, whether it's in the office, all these little baby steps, like we talked about, will help improve the whole team, the mentor-mentee relationships. It benefits everybody.
I was just going to add, I help out with a program here in Alaska that's a mentoring program, but it's for emotional intelligence. So, any profession can be a part of it, because it's not about the actual job itself. It's about the emotional intelligence aspect of it, and your own awareness with working with others. And I just wanted to share an observation. I love this conversation. It's very much my passion. I think it's an interesting conversation though, because, we're here because we very much have a continuous learning growth type of mindset. But we're having this conversation because I think, I'll step out on a limb, I think we're probably a small percentage of the profession that have this type of mindset. So how do we spark and spread, because there's so many different ways to have mentoring, every aspect along with it. So anyway, I just wanted to share it. I'm loving this conversation, but I'm also noticing like we all are a little bit of thinking the same. And I also know that, with the conversations I have with other people, like how hard I have to advocate to get continuous learning, to get other people's buy-in, to have, people attend conferences, etc. And so how do we, this is part of the solution. So that's it. Just acknowledging that. Thank you for being part of the solution.
Right. I would say along those lines, Tasha, like I went to 6 different conferences on my own dime to just promote outreach. And just being able to do presentations at the conference free of charge for the state associations. 1, because it's my passion, and 2, like it's hard to get a state conference or a society to be able to pay for 14 people in a room, because that's what we had in a few times. And it's just, and if it's your passion, Tasha, and we can develop some kind of mentoring presentation that we can offer at the different conferences. I know sometimes you do a lot of the CFED stuff, but I think it's offering that session to state societies. And if you're going to be there, maybe doing a CFED one anyway, maybe you can concurrently run some mentoring type stuff, but it's just going to be on us to kind of push it out there and get it to the state societies and in conferences.
Yeah, I love that. And inviting myself to the party is one of my superpowers.
Yeah.
And so on that, like, I got myself invited to the NSPS fall meeting to talk about mentoring with got invited by Jacob Heck for the young surveyor. So I don't know what I'm going to be saying, but at least we'll be part of the conversation.
Well, you have 2 weeks to figure it out. I was going
True
to
story.
I know I was supposed to be there, but I'm gonna cancel. I lost my dad on Sunday, and we're doing the celebration of life on that Saturday. So I'm like gonna kind of hang back and skip the fall meeting so I can get all that stuff ready. But I would have been there. I would have saw you. But I think going back to that, it's just getting ourselves out there and offering it as a service to the state societies and get it. It's going to start with a small room, and that did for me on every one of these presentations. I did one in Montana for 4 hours. We did a presentation, and then I did a roundtable, and there was 14 people in the room for the 4 hours, and it was a lot. It was a long drawing out conversation, but changing one person, right? You're trying to find that one champion at one person at a time. So
Yeah. Sorry about your dad,
yeah,
Trent.
yeah.
Uh,
He'd been in and out of the hospital. He spent 8 weeks this summer 8 out of the last 10 weeks in the hospital. So he ended up he had Parkinson's, and then turned into, they've undiagnosed because they couldn't really get a full diagnosis, but they're pretty sure he had colon cancer. Then pneumonia has ended up what got him in the end. So, but he's been struggling for years. So, but then this summer kicked his ass. So
sorry to hear. You wanna
thank you.
take a moment and take a moment of silence, and you could lead it in honor of your dad passing away.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I appreciate it. Dude.
No, it's okay. We've
We're
got to
good.
honor those that are
Absolutely.
passed.
Yeah. That's good.
But if you don't want to, I don't want to pressure you.
Oh no, we're good. Yeah,
continue.
no, he's good. He wouldn't have wanted it. I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's one of those. Yeah, don't cry over me. So,
for me, what I'm trying to do is with YSN, I'm in the process of coming with a plan for next year to do events, social things to get the California YSN going on a more regular basis. We had a summer camping trip, I think it was 2 years ago. So that's what my other project is. But in the meantime, I wanted to use the Roundtable Tuesday just to keep, the conversation going about these different issues. And that way, whether either we could talk about it, well, obviously we're talking about it, but if we're able to come up with ideas. I know attending the NSPS meetings in the past where I've been able to go, I get a lot of ideas just from being in the rooms with other people. So I feel like just talking about it will give other people ideas, and maybe that one person can do something within their circle, or if they want to go bigger, do it in their community. So just trying to keep the conversation going and trying to find those people that are willing and interested into doing the work. So that's like why I wanted Trent to get the Roundtable Tuesdays back going.
yeah, buddy.
So that's what we're doing here. If anybody has any last thoughts or anything they want to share, whether it's to this topic or anything else, the stage is yours before we head out.
I'll turn this one into I'll get this one into an article. I also, Rob McMillan and I, and I forget who else was on there, but we did a podcast on the Geoholics in 2020, and I turned that one into an article as well. So anybody can go back September 27th of 2020. I was looking at my article, but and then also that article is on the Mentoring Mondays resource page. So if anyone wants to go read all those articles, but I'll turn this one into an article as well. So I'll just gotta find the time to do it. I'll get it done though.
David, you want to say something?
Oh, just wanted to say thanks for the nice session, and it's good meeting you guys. I really like this format of kind of more discussion based than I don't know. I mean, the other one, the Mentoring Mondays and the Wisdom Wednesdays, have participated in those as well, and I really enjoy them. But I think this one, just really being more prioritizing the discussion, is appeals to me more. It's more
Yeah.
attractive to me.
No, it's fun. You had mentioned that you jumped on late, but did you watch the part one, David? Because you were saying you
No.
missed okay, so when we did it, we actually did it back in May. We did 1 through 3 back in May, and then we've been able to finish up. So this is technically part 2. So you can go back on even just roundtable Tuesdays.xyz. It's posted on there if you wanted to go back and watch it, and put
But it
the
wasn't there.
yeah, it's there.
I checked earlier today. I had to go to YouTube to find the first part.
Oh, that's funny.
Unless I missed it in line.
I'm gonna throw it in the
I
chat.
don't remember seeing it.
So it should be the only one. Well, it should pop up. It's the first one just on the main screen. I just threw it in the chat if somebody wants to click on it, see if it shows up. But
See, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what it is? It's because I was scrolled down.
Yeah.
So I thought it was in the
oh, okay, kind of like the
the
mentoring
list.
works. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So
Different websites, huh?
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if anybody has any topic ideas for our next roundtable, please reach out to Trent, and we could
Or
talk
Adrian.
about, oh yeah, or me.
Or Adrian.
I guess I'll put my email in the chat real quick in case you guys want to reach out. But yeah, we don't have a topic for next month, so it'll be up to me to come up with one.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We're looking at October, what do we say? October 3rd.
I think so. The
Yep.
first week.
Yep, it's the first Tuesday of the month, so October 3rd.
But yeah, thank you everybody for participating and all your input. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Diamondback Land Terrain, for sponsoring this event.
Love it.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye guys. Have a good
All
night.
right.
See you later, guys.
See ya.
See ya.